As you know, we do.
Yep, and the little.
Dan asked that we record it so that way he can watch it later. So to get started, we'll go ahead and we'll do some introductions. We'll start with those of us in the room, and then we'll jump onto Zoom, and then we can kind of just make it a popcorn thing, since I know it's kind of hard to figure out who would go next in Zoom. So I'm PJ. I'm the College and Community Events Manager at Bakersfield College. I oversee all of the events on campus. Oh, and what we did yesterday, we also said what's our favorite event of the year, and mine is obviously commencement. Leah, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leah, and I'm the event scheduler. And actually commencement's my favorite too. It drives me crazy, but it's so much fun.
2 peas in a pot. We'll go. We only have one guest in the classroom. They can't see you, but we know you're here.
I haven't been here a full year yet, but I have attended commencement, so I'm just gonna do the same. So it's fun.
Okay. And your name?
Heather.
Okay. All right, now we'll jump onto Zoom. We'll start since Laura was here first.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm recovering, so I'm gonna keep my camera off. But my favorite event is, I'm gonna be really biased. I'm part of the library, I'm one of the librarians at the main campus, and we do a media literacy week every fall, and those tend to be my favorites. I really love putting those on.
Next on Zoom.
Hello, I'm Yara. I'm the other DA3 for EOPS. I have attended commencement, but I will say for right now, the Caracal Works holiday celebration we just had in December is my favorite for now.
Hi, this is Irene Georges. I am a computer science faculty in the Department of Engineering and IT. And I'm here to learn more about, what are the steps in, creating or planning an event.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
Heather. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, this is John Medifogo. I'm from Public Safety Criminology. Here just trying to learn more a little bit on how to go by planning events at the BC.
My name is Heather Skabinski. I work in financial aid. I probably should say my favorite event is Financial Aid Fest, but I would actually have to say Garden Fest.
Hey, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Stacy was here yesterday, and we talked all about Garden Fest. That's always a fun event for us as well. All right, so we'll get started. Or not.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the events and scheduling team. It's actually, so this picture is old. We do need to take another picture, even though we just took it this last summer. Half the team is gone. Oh, see, it does it again. That's so weird. But it is myself, Leah, and Jonathan. So those of you who have done events, and particularly in the Renegade Event Center, usually we'll see all of us kind of running around managing tech, but mostly it's Jonathan Knack. He is a temporary employee, but he's been with us for going on 2 years. And he just assists us with all the tech in Renegade Event Center and indoor theater, while Leah is our scheduling extraordinaire. And then they just kind of manage me and make sure that I don't go crazy in the office.
We beat our snacks because we're always running around.
That is true, hence the sneakers. I'm always in sneakers. So we oversee all of the facilities at all Bakersfield College campuses. That includes the Panorama campus, Delano, Southwest, the Weill Institute, and now we have just added Arvin. Right now, there's no events that are scheduled at Arvin other than the welcome tables. But once that building becomes available, that will also be a site that we oversee when you have events. So why do you need to reserve space through events? I know it kind of feels like a tedious thing because you're ultimately asking for spaces. But the big thing is to ensure that the facility is open and available for use. One of the things that happens a lot is that some folks a lot of us all like the same days and times for events. The best example of that was this last September. We had like 10 different things happening across campus, and some of them even wanted the same type of spaces. One of the things to be mindful of, we have so many of us across the board, and that includes all of our departments. We have different campuses, everyone's doing stuff. So making sure that when you want a space, that it's actually available, and be mindful of the other stuff that's also happening on campus. It's no secret, parking isn't great here. So one of the things, like during that weekend in September, when we had the powwow, we had a football game, we had a performance in indoor theater, we had something else happening in the planetarium. One of the biggest complaints I got after that weekend was that their guests had a hard time finding parking. And it's like, well, we did warn you. Having your event on this day was going to be really impacted because there was just stuff happening everywhere. So that's a main reason for me. The other thing is ensuring that all your proper paperwork is in order. Contracts is going to get really, really firm on making sure that all of our paperwork is in, because at this point, we just want to make sure we're compliant. And it also helps with having your event on the internal BC calendar. So getting started. Before you even start planning before you submit your event request, let me rephrase. Before you submit your event request, you want to make sure that you have some type of idea of what you want to do, which means including having your funding allocated. Be mindful if the event is after hours, that you have some funding allocated for OT. There are charges for custodians and college safety officers. There's even charges for parking, additional carts, because ultimately those things have to be funded, and we just don't have budgets that can help do all of the different events that folks want to do on campus. The other thing is ensuring you have the paperwork. So making sure your ICAs are in, the general release and liability waivers. When you're hosting things like movie nights, you want to make sure that you have the proper licensings in place, because all we need is that one person. Something happens, they fall, they hurt themselves, and now we're wondering, well, we didn't even know this person was on campus. Or someone reports you for showing a movie, and now you're going to pay a whole lot more for showing that movie when it was unauthorized. Anything else on contracts?
A lot of times we'll have guest speakers for like various just whatever club events or whatever. So they'll come to campus and you're not necessarily paying them, they're just actually donating their time to come and speak on campus. Anytime anyone comes on campus, whether they're paid or not, they'll need to have some type of paperwork involved if they're not a KCCD employee. So if we have a guest speaker and you're paying them, you'll have an ICA that will cover you. If they're volunteering their time, a lot of times with our club activities, they have a lot of community members that come onto campus and just share what they're doing professionally. And that's great for our students, but we also need to have a volunteer form. We need to have their general release and liability waiver. And those are actually sent to HR, and they actually clear them we route it through Adobe Sign. So there should be some type of paperwork, whether you're paying them or not. If you have any questions, you can just reach out directly. I always send the blank forms, and you can always keep those in your document folder for future events, but just give us a holler if you're not really sure. It's always better to check than just to assume that you don't need anything.
And so all of those things should be in place before you submit your form. Now, I know that's not always realistic. We seem to kind of ride by the seat of the wheel over here. So as much as you can have together, it's really important before you submit your event request. Right now, we do use Ad Astra, which is just a form. I know there's a big misconception that once a form is submitted, that locks in the space. Unfortunately, we do not have a system that automatically reserves spaces on campus. There are software systems like that out there. Unfortunately, they are pricey, and my department is supposed to become self-sustaining, which means we're supposed to be charging outside people to come and rent out our facilities, which isn't always possible because, as you see, we are always doing stuff on campus. So for right now, we use Ad Astra. All event requests take 10 to 15 business days to be processed. So once we're processing your request, one of the things that takes a while is that we might need to get additional approvals for the said facility. So, or for student orgs, we have to get approval from the Office of Student Life. We also need to make sure we send it over to college safety and M&O to make sure that when those facilities are going to be, that we're able to actually use them. Certain things that can come into play that gets a little complicated. Let's just say you wanted something in Renegade Crossroads, but it's also the same time they are moving trees. Those kinds of things have to be communicated, because if you're doing an event outside, but they're also working outside, those things can have a conflict. And ultimately, we have to make sure that we get all the proper paperwork in order. So all of those things take some time. And as you see, our team is small. So there's only, for all the different events that we have on campus, it's really just the three of us that make sure that your event kind of goes off with no problems. And also maintaining the calendar.
No, I mean, there's a lot of little things that because we do this daily, we see a lot of things that maybe as a requester that you may not see. So just like the trees, you think, oh, it's outside, not a big deal. But with construction and all the things that happen on campus, there's a lot of details like that are more on our radar. We'll reach out to college safety, we'll reach out to M&O just to make sure it's okay. So it's just like another added bonus for you just to make sure to go through events, because it'll be a little smoother for you.
So campus department events. So this is going to become a more topic, especially because I get asked on a regular basis from our executive team is, how does the co-sponsoring of events work? Ultimately, whenever we are working with our partners in the community, a BC employee must submit the event request on their behalf if they want to use our facilities and they do not want to be charged facility fees. Because when they go in as a community member, they're going to get hit with one with some charges, and we're going to ask them for some paperwork before they're able to complete their request, including like the insurance and liability paperwork. Because whenever a group like that is coming onto campus, we want to make sure that all of our bases are covered in case anything was to happen. And also making sure you have the proper approvals from your dean and VPs when you're co-sponsoring events, because that is something else that I'm being asked. And I typically just go, oh, I don't know. I'm assuming they got approval from their VPs and their deans, but we don't ask for that information. And unfortunately, we just don't have the staff to go try and find out that information. But be prepared as we go into the future now with this new executive team. That is something that's going to be asked more often now. When you complete your request, be as detailed as possible. Let us know if you're going to need tech support, which means you want to have the budget in place to fund it. If you know you're going to need additional tables and chairs. Just this last December, we had a VN pinning ceremony in the Renegade Event Center. We did tell them how many chairs we had, and if they wanted more chairs, those would have to be ordered. But we never heard anything back on them, which I understand. The students are really busy and they kind of are the ones who lead that event. But come that day of, they needed an extra 100 chairs that unfortunately we don't just always have on hand. We were able to help get them some chairs just by looking around the rooms. But as you all know, we just kind of, one, we don't have staff, and two, we don't always have all of the supplies that are needed. So be mindful of those things, kind of have an idea in place, and just make sure you communicate with us as quickly as you can. And whenever there's something after hours, be mindful there will be M&O and college safety personnel costs. M&O is usually around $38 an hour, and college safety is $45 an hour. So depending on the size of the event, when it is, will determine exactly what is needed. So for events like Garden Fest, that usually needs like one officer, and then because of the amount of people, the amount of trash that comes outside, they also do food trucks. They need a handful of M&O folks to try and come in throughout the weekend to make sure that the space is clean come Monday. So tips. This is going to be Leah.
Oh, yes. As you can see on the little snapshot, at Esra, it's not like the best system, but in the system, if you're just putting meeting, that's not really a meaningful event title that we can tie to somebody right away when we're just glancing at it. So just try to, even if it's just really generic for your department, if you're in the ag department, just put ag department meeting. It just makes it a little more specific and meaningful. So when we look at it, we're kind of tying it to people. A lot of times, even if you just put meeting in there, I more often than not will change it just to make it make sense to us on the other end, because we're looking at a huge spreadsheet of titles. And if they just say meeting, it's like, I don't know which one or who that is. So on our end, it just makes it a little bit easier when we have our complete spreadsheet, just for it to make sense when we're looking at it at a glance. And then also, if you want to make it more general, you can just group it and then start off with your meetings in the beginning. And then we know as the semester goes on, you'll need to have other meetings. Once it's already processed, you can just piggyback off of that confirmation number. Just respond back and let us know, hey, this meeting, we're actually going to call a special meeting for our ag department. Can we add another date? That way you don't have to put in another event request. You're just piggybacking off of something that's already been requested, and it'll expedite the process a little bit. So it's one less thing you have to do, one less thing we have to process and change. It'll just make it easier all around. And hopefully it makes it a little bit faster for you on your end. So you don't have to be really specific. You can just be as general as you want to be. Put your department, financial aid department meetings. And that can just mean a staff meeting, that can mean a larger meeting. We just need it to make sense for your department, and then you can add to it as you go along. Because we know things change. We're realistic about that. So we're just trying to make best with what we have to work with.
And also making sure you plan those out a little bit sooner. One of the things that, even during this last break, my first year here during the 2-week off, we had 89 event requests submitted, and a majority of them were for that very first week in January. Unfortunately, there was just no way we would get to all of them, because even in that first week of January, we had events, we had our own meetings and things that we're responsible for. So what I recommend is at the beginning of the year, and when I say year, I mean July, meet with your teams and try and get as many things, especially if you know you want spaces like the Renegade Event Center, if you want to use our conference rooms in Campus Center. Those are the only spaces we can book out a year in advance. Everything else, we have to wait until the academic schedule for the upcoming semester is finalized. Meaning for this spring, we cannot have add any rooms for like LA building, humanities. We cannot access those spaces until the end of November. Then the same thing for us now in spring. We can't touch some of those rooms until April for the summer and for fall. So it kind of gives us an even smaller timeline. But if you know that you want some of the spaces in Campus Center, if you want something that's in the indoor theater, even we can communicate with them, because we are working on an annual calendar for those larger spaces. That will help tremendously, because a lot of you like those spaces, which I understand why. They're all hybrid. They have really nice facilities. We have bathrooms that are close. It's usually closer to staff parking. So all of those things are understood. But be mindful that everybody also wants those spaces. All of our executive team people have their meetings in there. I know a bunch of the departments are having things in there on top of just having events on campus are also in those spaces. But the sooner you get them in, it's a lot easier for me to take stuff off the calendar than to try and find you a space.
Especially after a certain date, it's just so impacted. It just is hard to make even just slight edits. It's like you were good, but you've moved it 15 minutes and now it's a disaster. Just because everything's so tight. We get a lot of use about our facilities. So even if you have just general department meetings, if you can just put that on your agenda, just do like a general outline for the year of what your events would be. Happy to work with you. We do soft holds. Like if you need 3 dates, we'll hold it for like a week for you, and then we release it like for a bit larger scale events when you're working with community partners, because we understand you have to kind of mesh calendars together, and that's not always an easy thing to do. So just reach out. We're willing to work with anybody. We just like communication as much as possible.
Another tip, so we'll just keep hounding on this subject. Just make sure you have some type of budget. It's just really, really important. Now that things, as everyone knows, things are going up. Even just, I showed Dr. Fleiger the budget for what we're spending on commencement. And he was like, well, do we need those things? And I was like, well, they're chairs. So yes, the answer is yes. But be mindful that inflation is happening across the board. So we are gonna need to have a budget. And that's gonna be the same thing when you order food. Make sure you are submitting at least 3 weeks ahead of time, at least for, I know this isn't always doable for some of our stuff, but we have to be mindful of everyone's doing stuff on campus. So 3 weeks ahead of time is really like that sweet spot. And also be flexible on the space and the date. I was just asked for the calendar from February to April of the Renegade Event Center. And we have stuff, there's only 2 weekends that room is open. There is something happening every weekend leading up until the end of May. So those things have been booked well in advance. So we want to make sure that whenever you have something, you're going to either have to be flexible in the space or the date, because the Renegade Event Center is the only space that fits that many people sitting down at like a banquet style. The only other space that fits 400 people is indoor theater, but as most people know, you can't eat in there. So just kind of keeping those things in mind as you're planning, that just because that may be the vision in mind, doesn't mean that the space is available. You will want to connect with us as soon as possible as you're planning those larger events. Making sure you understand completing the form does not guarantee the space. This happens quite a bit. We'll have folks who submit an event request for just a classroom and come to find out there's actually something else already in that said classroom, but they show up and they figure, well, I submitted the request. Unfortunately, our system is all manual. So that form is just a form. That form goes to Leah. Once Leah is able to put it into Banner, see if the room is available, she'll send out a confirmation number. If the room is not available, she'll seek out alternatives and then contact you with what some of your options are. But that is what we do for every event that's on campus. Keep in mind, we do put in requests. For October alone, we had over 1,000 things on our calendar. That was for sure our busiest month this year. It did trickle down a little bit. November, we had about 700. We had about 5 in December. And that's every single thing that's on campus that goes through our calendar. That includes the PAL workshops that we have. It includes the study jams, all of the performances that we do in indoor and outdoor theater, and all of the student org events that happen across campus. So there's lots of things that are happening at all times. So just making sure that when you submit the form, that you understand that it does not guarantee the location, the desired location. We'll try to fit your needs as much as we can if the date's not flexible, but you just have to give somewhere. Oh, and if you have an idea for a large event, it's always good. It's always a good idea that you loop me and Leah in on those early discussions. We're always happy to discuss logistics, and it kind of helps get you in the space of understanding of what might be some of your options. And we also will look up dates like, okay, well, we already know this day is not going to work because this and this is happening. All of those things we're happy to discuss with you if you want to meet with us one-on-one to discuss your event, or if you have a calendar of events. We do the same thing with Mesa. We do it with OSL. Just because those groups do so many things, we understand that we're going to have to meet everyone's needs, and that seems to work for almost everyone. It gets us going on a nice groove.
Yeah, I mean, just even, was it this week? I don't even know what day it is, friends. We had a meeting with Mason. They usually have 2 large scale events in the spring. We had a meeting, we talked about both of them. We kind of ironed it out. And so that way it gets their wheels turning, thinking about other things, and we have something to go off of. So it just works out. It was lovely to have those things like I'm typing notes as they're talking. It's just nice to do that ahead of time, and just so we're not having a back and forth, we just get to iron it out one time. And then at this point, we're just communicating little details here and there. So it takes off a lot of that stress that a larger event puts on you. When you have so many details, it kind of weeds them out a little bit ahead of time.
And we do it with all of the other ones too. Manufacturing days, anything that's gonna have lots of different classrooms, that has lots of different folks on campus. Those ones we really encourage you get us, and it doesn't have to be both of us. If we both can attend, we will, but as you'll see, a lot of times we divide and conquer, and we share a very close space. So we're always in communication, but that way we are always on the same page with what's happening on campus, and we can share your needs with all of our partners, including College Safety and M&O.
Yeah, we have meetings with College Safety, M&O, Food Services. We talk to them all the time. So sometimes on your behalf, we'll advocate for you. We'll say, hey, do you have this one on your calendar? Let's discuss it. So it just makes it a little bit easier on your end to kind of funnel it through here, and we can talk to people.
So coming soon. So we will have a system in place. However, it still does not guarantee you a space. However, this is what it will do. It will show you a little bit more when the space is not available. So if you were to book, I use Renegade Event Center a lot because it's just such a hot space on campus. But if you wanted the Renegade Event Center on March 15th, you will already see that it's grayed out. I know it's grayed out because that's also sterling silver. So that's the big foundation event. But when you go in, that part would be grayed out. Now, if you see an open spot, it still does not guarantee you the space because we still have to do our processing, making sure that it's not on hold for anything else. Because that process is still manual, it does not connect to Banner that actually secures the room. So, I was like, what's happening?
It's new.
It's new. We haven't launched it just yet, just because we're working out all the different bugs that we have. But there will be 2 portals. So it will have a single sign-on. So all employees, when they would go to the BC homepage, you'll have your KCCD log on, and you'll actually be able to see pictures of the spaces. We did go in this summer and take pictures of all of our nice classrooms. So that way, you know exactly, are you gonna have a classroom with desks? Are they gonna have like the lab style tables? You'll be able to put in there that you're gonna have catering on one of these things. You can add that you need catering tables, because on average, I think almost everyone here has seen the catering setup. They always need at least 2 to 3 tables for their setup. It's rare they ever just need the one. But all of those things will now be part of the new system, so it's a little bit easier to manage. I was told we actually had something similar before. Fortunately, it went away, but we brought it back. And that way it kind of, 1, it looks nicer, but 2, you can be a little bit more detailed in what you're needing, including for things like delivery schedules. I know we try to ask that, but here the form won't let you submit it without indicating, are you gonna have extra things delivered? And if so, what are they? As I said, we do things daily. There's always stuff happening on campus. Just yesterday, it was another divide and conquer. At the same exact time, we had events in 3 different spaces, and each of them needed a tech person, which are really not me and Leah, but it became me and Leah just by default. So all of us kind of divided and conquered to just make sure that everyone was being serviced to the highest level. And it was a great event for all of them.
And just know on the BC website, you can type in a little search tool that's on the upper right-hand corner, events management. Our page will pop up. Anything on there, it'll link to the new Brightly system. It'll connect to all the things that you may need. I think there's even like the catering request form that you can search on there. So just always, if you're curious, you can just click around. It was recently reformatted, so you can kind of go in and see what's there. But just go ahead and do that. All of those things will be linked. So including the new link to the new form once we roll out the new system.
And this is also why it's important to make sure when you're meeting with community partners that the employee is the one that completes the event request, because any community members will be put to the community rental portal, which means that they will be hit with an invoice that they have to agree on before it even secures the space. So we will want to make sure that we, especially if there's no intention for the community partner to pay any facility fees, that we don't have them fill out the request.
There we go.
All right, any questions? No, comments, concerns? No,
Everyone's good.
All right, well, that is our show. Thank you all for joining us. Like I said, here's our emails on the bottom if you want to send us a note. For the most part, we're pretty easy to find on campus. Our office is in the Renegade Event Center on the 3rd floor in the former storage conference room, place where they hide cups. That's now where we are.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time.